Hi, this is Joe Anderson with Fortify Risk Management. We want to welcome you to the Strategic Risk Mind podcast. And I'm very excited to have you here today. We get to be joined by Ben Johnson. So Ben, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Really excited to have you. Ben is a certified EOS implementer, which you're going to learn more about today. And he helps companies that are growing, entrepreneurial companies. He helps their leadership gain vision, traction, and health by implementing their entrepreneurial operating system. And so we're looking forward to learning how that impacts risk. Ben, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, your family, some of the things you like to do.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Great to be with you and join you guys here today. Well, I'm an Idaho guy. I grew up on a potato farm in eastern Idaho. I've got my wife and 4 kids, and they're like the focus of my life and the very best parts of my life. In fact, I just got back with my wife. We just went to Costa Rica.
Awesome.
We'll probably talk a little bit about some of the stuff we did in Costa Rica.
Yeah, that's so cool.
But that's why I do what I do. And I also am fortunate enough to get to do something that I love, which is helping especially entrepreneurs and their leadership teams to be able to run their business well and get to live a great life as well.
Yeah.
Most people that are business owners, they kind of feel like their business runs them.
Okay.
And don't have the freedom that they were intending to get when they became entrepreneurs. I help them to get that freedom. And it's a lot of fun. And anyway, great to be here.
That's so great. Yeah. And you said you worked in private equity and consulting at Deloitte for a little while.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. I'm curious.
I was started in New York. I was worked for companies that were private equity owned. And I was always pretty fascinated in private equity. Like this idea of pooling money together to buy businesses and help them be successful. Man, there's some that did it well, and there's some that did it really poorly and really hurt companies along the way too.
Yeah.
And then from there, I moved to San Francisco and I became an M&A consultant. So I helped those private equity funds make good decisions.
Yeah.
And that, again, fascinating. My biggest client was KKR. They're like one of the largest private equity funds in the world. Wow. Got to work on, really big billion-dollar deals and some smaller deals. Anyway, just got exposed to how a lot of companies do things. And again, learned some really great ways of doing things and some terrible ways of doing things too.
That's got to be a really cool background to kind of meld with the coaching and implementing kind of processes that you bring to the table for your businesses. Some of which down the road they may want to be set up for sale, right? They want to cash out at some point.
Well, every business will end. Like every business owner will at some point exit the business, either because they shut it down, they sell it, they give it to the next generation. But nobody's going to stay in any business forever. And you're right. There's ways to set that up for success and a high value, and then there's ways to not do that. And so EOS is actually a really great way to maximize the value of your business no matter what you're going to do to transition, because it takes it from being all about you, the owner, and it spreads it out to a team of people that are executing and aligned to your vision. They're disciplined and they're working together well.
Yeah, that's so cool. And we've interacted with you guys a few times. One of our consultants is part-time consultants is also a full-time safety director at an EOS company called Trinity Trailers.
Oh, nice, yeah.
And then there's some companies out in Kansas actually I work with that are EOS, and there's some others. And so it's kind of fun to see companies that are well run and then see kind of the people behind them, right, that are kind of whispered in their ear. Well, and it's just interesting. So yeah, we're really excited to have you here. Tell us about some of your interests, like outside of work. Like, what do you like to do?
Well, that was one of the reasons I brought this. So this is the wing for my hydrofoil. Okay. So when I was in Costa Rica, one of the things that I did was foil surf in the ocean. So on swell. Okay. So picture surfers, they're surfing where the waves are breaking. And you get up, you have like 5 or 10 seconds, maybe you get in the tube, and then you go and try to find another wave. Well, on a foil, you get to join that wave way before, maybe a mile offshore, and you get to ride it all the way in. So you've got, maybe a minute on that thing. Wow. And what you're doing is you're reading the wave, you're reading the speed, the angle, and you're trying to put yourself in a place where you can maximize it, have the most fun. there's immediate feedback in foiling, because if you screw up, you're toast, right? You just
now explain to people foiling, because I know some people may not be
so this is the thing that's in the water, and there's a fuselage and then there's a tail wing. So this looks like an airplane, right? Up above that is a mast that's 3 feet long, and on top of that is the surfboard. So you're standing on the surfboard up here. So when you're up and flying, you're standing, your head is like 8, 9, 10 feet off the water.
So
you're
awesome.
high up there.
That's so crazy.
It's like such a fun, freeing, like it's about as close to flying as you can get with your feet swimming on the ground.
Yeah.
Anyway, it is a blast. So when it's warm, I'm doing some form of foiling. That's my favorite thing.
That's so cool.
And then when it's cold, I love to ski and snowboard and that kind of stuff. But I think that's what, like all these things, I think one of the reasons I love those kinds of sports is that there's immediate feedback. Like if you miss the wave or you don't read the slope right, you're going to know it because you're going to fall, right? And it gives you an ability to learn and grow and adapt to it pretty quickly. Yeah. I think business is kind of that way too. And if you look at it that way, like if you choose to look at the failures as just feedback, that you can then adjust and this is risk management. That's what businesses are. That's what these sports are. It's just managing your risk and trying to be able to ride it in the very best way possible. Because there's just stuff you can't control. Right?
And you're dealing with, we have two kinds of risk when we talk about insurance or risk management. There's pure risk and speculative risk. Speculative risk has the opportunity for gains and losses. Pure risk is just all loss.
Just downside.
And so, as you're working with companies, you're helping them with the speculative risk of running a business and being profitable and trying to increase the gains and limit the losses, right? And it's kind of fun. And so that's a lot of, that's a really interesting piece, because as a business owner, the business changes. You start growing, and all of a sudden now you have managers, and now you got all these things, and it's like, well, and your time's getting pulled in a million directions. And I just think it's fascinating what you guys are doing, because there's a real health to not just advising, but helping implement. A lot of people are really good at giving good advice. Not very many want to get in and get muddy and roll up their sleeves and go, let's slosh this out together. And I love that about what your culture is you guys are implementers. And so tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's interesting. So when you think of what EOS is, it's a system that people are using to then be able to get what they want out of their business and live great lives. That is done best if they master the system. And if they understand it well enough that on a Tuesday, when crap hits the fan, they can fall back to that system and use it to be able to ride through that and get to the other side, and either manage that downside risk or take advantage of the opportunity that came. So when people really run on, EOS comes from traction, by the way. Gino Wickman wrote that book 25 years ago, and that's what we do, is we help people do that. So when people are running effectively on that, it's what's allowing them to manage, like controllable risk. It's the things that are really within your control that you do well, so that you can, again, ride that wave, get that great ride, as opposed to just crashing because you didn't control the controllables, like people. So lots of times, maybe you lose a customer because your customer service person just had a bad day, or they didn't actually know the product well enough to help the customer figure out how to solve that problem. And for that reason, the customer moves on. Well, how do we prevent that? Is that a controllable risk or not? I would argue it's controllable, because first of all, if you bring that customer service person in, that's a core value fit, they fit your culture. Well, first of all, they're going to be able to better perpetuate that to everybody they talk to. Then if they really understand their role in the business and they want to do it and they do it well, they're way more likely to then deliver that value properly to the customer. They're able to talk about it well, they're able to deliver it well. And then if you have processes in the business that tell that customer service person exactly how to handle things, their chances of coming to a positive outcome for the customer are like 90% better. And so you're going to lose less customers if you just manage that controllable risk of getting the right people in the right seats and giving them the right things to do day in and day out.
It's so interesting, right? I mean, we've all been in situations where we're super jacked about something, right? Could be marrying somebody, could be a sport, could be going on a vacation. And you put a lot of energy and intent into the things that you're really excited about. And, you know, it may be a little bit of a stretch to say business is going to be that exciting. But the point is, if you could make it interesting and fun while you're doing it, right, and have some contests or some ways to engage people where they feel like they get enjoyment out of it, it's just they're going to give you more. And it's not going to feel like they're giving stuff. It just feels like, hey, this is fun. I'm enjoying this. And I think that's such a cool thing. And so I know a lot of what you guys are working on is how to communicate and how to communicate goals, how to be able to be accountable, how to be able to do that in a way that's constructive instead of like blaming or dealing with, how to build everybody up so everyone's moving in the same direction. And I thought I'd have you talk about that a little bit, like that culture side of the people, because I think that's really important with what we do in risk management, because culture is a big deal for us on employee injuries and all kinds of things. So share a little bit about that for us.
Yeah. So when you think about, running your business, one way to think about it is that there's 6 main components. Okay. So vision, people, data, issues, process, traction. And if you can get real strong in those 6 areas, then most of the problems you face are really just going to go away because they're just symptoms of weakness in one of those 6 things. So you talk about vision or alignment. If you can have a clear picture of where the company's going to go and how it's going to get there, and you can get everybody in the company to align around that vision, you mitigate a lot of risk because everybody is actually doing what they're supposed to. They understand the why. They're bought into that. They want to be a part of it, as opposed to everybody kind of rowing in their own direction, serving their own self-interest. Yeah, I heard a stat, and I want to see. Hopefully, I can get this right. I think that businesses are 3.5 times more likely to succeed if they have a clear vision that is shared by everybody in the company. And I think it was that they're 1.6 times more profitable if they've got their people aligned around the vision. I think that was a Harvard Business Review stat.
It's pretty cool.
So just getting that vision clear and getting alignment to it, you're going to get better results.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things that I think a lot of people think about is, how do I mitigate or manage risk well? It's an interesting topic because there's some risks that they are pretty comfortable with. And a lot of those are ones they make money doing. So they love talking about those. Like, man, this is what we do. We have this system. We have this safety. We have this deal. And they're like, I got it dialed. And it makes it fun to talk about because they kind of know what they're talking about. But like the stuff that they're not good at or they just don't know, a lot of times it gets stuck in the corners and it gets a blanket over it and like they don't want to talk about it. And so you go in and you go, okay, well, what about this exposure? Like, oh yeah, well, I don't really think I have that. It's like, well, wait a second, how do you? And so I think it's interesting in our business because we end up having to kind of figure out how do we nudge in there a little bit to where we could get them to talk about it without it being so risky for them, right? From a reputation or a how it looks standpoint. And I wonder, do you guys deal with that as well as you're working with companies, and how do you get around some of that stuff with your senior management and some of that as far as like those, how's this going to make me look kind of thing?
So when we talked about, you introduced me and you said that, I help companies have more vision or better vision, traction, and be healthier.
Yeah.
What you're talking about is healthy. You're talking about a culture where you can talk about the elephants in the room. You can talk about those weaknesses that people would normally want to hide. What we're trying to do is create a culture where that can all just get up in front, just get on the table, get in front of us.
Yeah.
And then we can decide when's the right time to handle it. You can't solve every issue right this second. But if you know what they are, then you're way more able to prioritize them and then solve them at the root, make them go away at the right time.
I see.
So and that's what that issues component of those 6 key components is all about. It's about getting the issues out of our heads, getting them onto a list, and then prioritizing them and solving them at the right time. So businesses succeed when they solve the right the right people solve the right issues at the right time.
Yeah.
And those issues are both weaknesses and problems and also opportunities. Yep. If the right people are solving those at the right time and solving the right issues, you're going to achieve a lot. Mm-hmm. So it's all about having that healthy culture where you can talk about those, those weaknesses. That's I got an issue, and actually I'm the issue. We want that. Yeah. We want to celebrate that, because the worst issues are the ones you don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so our furnace repairman came to our house and was just doing service on the furnace.
Yeah.
And he saw something and he's like, what is that? And he reached in with some tongs and he pulled it out. And it was a little play phone that my kids had lost like a year ago. And it was all melted and kind of black and warped. It had clearly like either started on fire or almost started on fire a whole bunch of times.
Oh my goodness.
In our walls, right?
Oh my goodness.
That is what's happening in your business. That's the undiscovered issue. It's the thing that if you're not willing to be open and honest and like create that culture where people can talk about it, you've got a lot of those in your walls.
That's amazing.
And that can start a fire. It can burn down the house.
Yeah, and it's like, and nobody wants to talk about it because it's not my deal and I'm in this corner. And it's like, well, it's all of our deal. So and I think that's such a huge benefit to companies and working with you, is just being able to kind of have someone come in from the outside, go, look, all of you have issues. None of you are perfect. Let's get these all out. Let's start working on them. Because these companies, and I talk to them too, and even in my company can happen, right? And I kind of realize that. So that's really cool. I think one of the interesting things that you guys are working with companies on is, how to be efficient and how to get the most out of your people, and then how to have traction. I think you've talked about the other two, but that traction piece is really interesting to me. It's part of what the name of the book is here. Mm-hmm. Tell us what does it look like? Give us an example of a company with traction and maybe a company without traction. Like, what are some of the things that change that you're helping build into these companies?
Yeah, so kind of thinking about what you do. So you've explained to me before that you'll come into a business and you'll do like a risk assessment or take people through like risk scenarios, right? What do you call it?
Yeah, like threat simulators.
Yes, threat simulators. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so in EOS, what we do is we live in a 90-day world. Okay. So every 90 days we stop. The leaders of the business, they stop. And for one day, you do three things. You look back to see what happened, hold yourself accountable, and then learn from it. Mm-hmm. Then you recheck the vision, make sure you're all still on the same page about where you're going and how you're going to get there. Mm-hmm. And then you make your plans for the next quarter. And when I say make your plans, what I mean is select the 3 to 5 highest priorities, the things that are most impactful in moving this business forward towards its vision. Mm-hmm. And it's 3 to 5, not 35. Because if everything's important, nothing's important, right?
Sure.
Okay, so
issues,
maybe we're dealing with, let's say it's a business that has a lot of employees that are working in the construction industry.
Okay.
And what they've seen, it's come up on their issues list, is we've had a lot of accidents. We've had a lot of injuries, and they're pretty costly. Mm-hmm. Well, when they get in the room and they assess what all the different issues are, they decide, you know what, the most impactful thing actually is to figure out how to mitigate that risk. How do we get to have less accidents? Mm-hmm. Well, maybe one of those priorities is, hey, let's bring Joe in. Let's have him come and do a risk simulator for us. That's going to help us figure out, of all the things we could do, which are the ones that are going to be the most impactful.
Yeah.
So somebody takes that rock to work with you, have you come in, actually execute that, and then act on the therefore what's. And that rock is essentially figure out what are the most impactful ways to mitigate employee accident risk and implement them.
Yeah, it'll be like a work comp assessment. We call those risk reduction reviews. And then the simulators will simulate the accident or the problem, right? But it's so cool. And I think, as you're working all across the organization with that kind of mindset, I can see how that really starts to work. I was thinking of a ship, and just, a ship sets a course and they have to operate the ship. So they have all these things moving it forward and feeding and doing all these things, but they also have to go in a direction. And so then that kind of, as you were talking about looking back, you're kind of like, well, what do we do well and what do we need to improve? But then looking for, are we going in the right direction? And I think sometimes as a business, you get going so fast. It's like, man, all I can do is wake up and go to work and do this and that. And it's like, am I really heading in the right direction? And I think a lot of businesses are asking that question right now, Ben, because the world's changing quite a bit, right? We have a lot of things that are changing in our world with robotics, AI technology, geopolitical issues. And it's like, well, how do I navigate that? And you kind of answer that question. It's like eating an elephant. You got to do a bite at a time. And it's kind of like taking time every quarter to go, where are we at? Where have we been? Where do we want to go?
Yep.
And that's really awesome.
Yeah, well, and I love that you pointed that out. This world is changing. Markets are changing. Even like our customers' needs are changing.
Yeah.
That's why every so often we recommend every 90 days you stop and you actually do that assessment and recheck your vision and make changes to it. Allow it to be a dynamic thing that can change. And if you do that once every 90 days, it's like that big ship course correcting every so often. Like you really do need to execute. You can't do this every week or else you'll never get anything done.
Yeah.
But that once a quarter cadence tends to work real well.
That's
where
cool.
you get a lot done, but
it.
then you can course correct and get more done.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that has worked really well for me in my life and in the businesses that I've run, and that works well for my clients.
I was thinking as you were talking about that, because we had a project that we were working on to build some software, and it went pretty well. It seemed like, but then it just wasn't working. And so great people involved, good system, but it just didn't work. So we had to scrap it. And I was thinking about that. There's these like sacred cows sometimes in these businesses where it's like, oh, and this wasn't one because it's been a few months, but I was just thinking about like, some of these businesses, they've built something, a technology, a product, a service that's been around for a while. And it's like, this is like a sacred cow. You can't touch this. And then everyone knows in the business that something needs to change, but no one wants to say anything. How do you deal with those sacred cows as you're kind of working through that?
It's funny. Well, first of all, we have a cow on the desk right there because every business has those. So when it's like, hey, that's a sacred cow, somebody can just like throw the cow. But so the tool that's really, really helpful in that is actually part of what we call the vision for the organization. If you answer these 8 questions, you'll know where you're going, how you're going to get there. Well, one of those 8 questions is called your core focus. So this is your sweet spot.
Yeah.
It's the combination of the why. So why are we doing this kind of business? And then what is it that we're trying to be world class at? You put those 2 things together, that gives you your North Star. It tells you what you need to be saying yes to more of, and what you should then not say yes to because it's outside of your core focus. So I'll give you an example of that. So in my personal life, I had a crossroads 3 years ago. I was trying to decide what I was going to do. I had just founded a private equity fund, and I thought about doing another one. But when I sat down and I looked at, okay, well, what am I passionate about? What's my why? And what is my my superior skills? It became really clear to me that I don't love managing other people's money. And because of that didn't fit within my core focus. And if I said yes to that would just be a shiny thing. It would be a distraction. What I really love to do is to coach and to facilitate and teach people things that help them be successful.
Yeah.
So it was an easy answer for me to just say, oh yeah, EOS, being an EOS implementer, helping other people be successful, great answer. Now, I, like many business owners, have shiny object syndrome. It's really easy to get excited about something that sounds fun.
That's right.
It sounds interesting. Maybe what you do in your business can get a little mundane. So you're looking for something that kind of spices it up.
Yep.
My brain just naturally goes to that all the time. And it's taken time to understand this discipline of deciding what I want to be world class at, what I'm going to focus on, and giving myself permission to say no to all these other things. But as I've done that, what I've learned is your bandwidth and your energy and that creative energy that you have, when it's focused on your sweet spot, that's when breakthroughs really happen in your business. That's when you become excellent at something.
Yeah.
Instead of allowing yourself to be distracted. Like a guy I was just talking to, it's like instead of making 1 yard on every play and you do a bunch of different plays, it's like, no, I want to score touchdowns. I want to score 4 or 5 touchdowns a game and I'm going to win them all. It's that focus that helps you to
that's
actually
so cool.
achieve.
I was just, as you were talking, I was just thinking about, the little experiment you have as a kid when you take a magnifying glass around, you try to get leaves to burn, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to really focus it, right? And then it's that win. And it's like, would I rather have one awesome win like that, or like 20 kind of okay things, you know? And because those awesome wins can propel you.
Yep.
That's so cool.
Yep.
That's awesome, Ben. Well, this has been really interesting, and we have a lot of different businesses we work with that are really, most of the time, they're companies that are doing really well, and they just want to keep getting better.
Right.
And we like to say the best keep getting better. And so, continuous improvement, risk management's all about that. I know you guys are about similar things. I feel like it's a sister concept in some ways. And so we're really excited to have you on. Is there anything kind of as a last word, or kind of a scenario kind of final thought that you want to leave our audience with today?
Yeah. Well, when you were saying that, businesses grow kind of like kids, where you go through a growth spurt and then you kind of stay, and then you go through a growth spurt.
Yeah.
That's how businesses grow. So you'll grow really fast, and then you'll hit what feels like a ceiling, something that keeps you from being able to break through and continue with that growth. And until you figure out what's preventing you, you're going to stay stagnant. But when you figure it out, then you break through that ceiling and you can keep going.
Okay.
Well, that happens forever. Like, you always will go through that cycle of growth and then ceiling, growth and then ceiling.
Yeah.
And what I will say is that having a system to fall back to, like EOS, is what then gives you the tools to break through those ceilings. So when your listeners are hearing this, what I'd say is, if things are feeling too hard, it's like it's harder than it should be, or this is frustrating, or we're trying this and it just is not working. Well, then it's time to think about your system, because we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems.
Yes.
And so if you're hitting that ceiling, work on your system, because that's what's going to break you through that ceiling.
I love it. That is great advice. Thank you all for joining us today on the Strategic Risk Mind. It's been our privilege to have Ben Johnson with EOS Implementers on. We're super excited to have you here. It's been another great episode of the Strategic Risk Mind, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.